What's the story, Morning Glory? What's the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of 90 Day Fiance Before the 90 Days, Season 7, Episode 18, before we say goodbye. So let's get into Magda and Joe. Okay, so they go take a trip up to the mountains for, I guess it was an overnight trip. They weren't there for that long, and they're going to stay in this little cottage. They're going to have this beautiful view of the mountains. So Joe has less than a week in Poland to figure out exactly where does he stand with Magda, where does their relationship stand, what is their future going to look like. So he just has a few days to figure all of this out. So he's very stressed out about one particular thing, though, and he is stressed out about the fact that he has to tell Magda that he is still friends with one of his exes. Now, in the previous episode, Joe and Magda had a conversation about whether or not it's appropriate to stay friends with an ex. And Magda was very adamant about how it is inappropriate. She doesn't do it, and she doesn't tolerate anybody else that she's with to still be friends with her exes. So she's of the mindset that you cannot be friends with someone that you once had a very romantic and sexual connection with. So she's not going to tolerate that at all. So Joe now is stressing out because one of his really good friends happens to be an ex-girlfriend. And he's known this girl, her name is Jill. He's known her for a very, very long time. So he doesn't know how he's going to break this news to Magda. So the next time that we see Magda and Joe, we find out that they finally consummated their relationship. They finally had sex. So Magda broke her no sex rule because she didn't want to have sex with him, I think, until he had proposed. I think that's what she was waiting for, was a proposal. But I guess being in the mountains and everything appearing to go so well with Joe, and Joe has been giving her the eye. He has been giving her that look that he just wants to devour her since he landed in Poland. And you have Magda here running around in her little athletic wear, her little athletic gear, showing off her body, not intentionally. I'm not saying that she's doing this intentionally, but she wears her little short little bodysuits and whatnot. And Joe, look, I'm pretty sure that whatever he did to convince her to break her no sex rule, he laid it on really, 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 really thick. Because I didn't think that, I was like, Joe, how are you holding it together? How are you able to be around a girl that you're obviously very attracted to, who is a very attractive, young woman, and she's walking around in her bikinis and her her little athletic way. I mean, like, how are you keeping yourself together? Well, he didn't have to keep himself together for too long because they finally did it. So because of the fact that she has changed her stance on not having sex with Joe before being engaged, I'm thinking to myself that now Magda is not playing around and she is taking no prisoners. So because of the fact that she gave in to Joe, Joe has to be on his P's and Q's and cannot mess up because Magda will have his throat or his eyeballs. So I was just really like thinking to myself that I didn't think it was, I thought his timing was just really bad to have sex with her first and then have to tell her later that he is breaking one of her cardinal rules of not being friends with an ex. So he's been really dragging his feet about telling her when they first got to them into the mountains, he was going to tell her that first day that they were there. He was going to tell her then because they got into the jacuzzi. It was very romantic, but he chickened out and he didn't tell her. So the next day, I think it was, they go into town. And this is the day after they had sex, mind you. So they go into town the next day, and after they get their mini donuts, he sits her down, and that's when he decides to tell her that, look, Magna, I've got something to tell you. I know we had a conversation about people not being friends with their exes, but I just want you to know that, one of my really, really good friends, and I've known her for 15 years, she happens to be an ex-girlfriend of mine. But we only dated like 7 years ago. It didn't last that long. It wasn't that serious, but we still remain friends. And so Magna is not trying to hear this. She does not care how long they've been friends. She does not care how long ago they broke up. Just the fact that they once had a sexual relationship and they still remain friends. This is what's really ticking her off. So she's definitely upset. More so because in the beginning of their relationship, she had specifically asked Joe if he was friends with an ex. and he had told her no. So her whole thing is, it's not just the fact that you're friends with this girl, but you lied to me about being friends with her because I had specifically asked you, are you friends with any exes? And you told me no. So now I can't even trust you. So Magna says, you hide and you lied. And, I don't know. I can't go on. I can't trust you anymore. Also, Joe had FaceTime. Now, this was in the beginning of their relationship. Joe had FaceTimed Magna at one particular point, and in the video, Jill was in the video. So Magna remembers this, and she feels like an idiot that she was, talking to Joe on FaceTime, and he had this girl in the video with him who he claimed was just his friend, but coming to find out, this is someone that he had dated a few years ago. So she feels stupid that she was talking to Joe, had no idea that the friend sitting next to him was an ex of his. So Magna's like, you know what? If you want to continue this relationship with me, then I'm going to give you an ultimatum. You're going to have to choose. Either you're going to be with me or you're going to be friends with her, but you can't have both. And so I was like, my God, Magna, wow, she doesn't play around. Magna does not play around. How are you going to tell this man that he has to choose between a really good friend of his that he did happen to date a few years ago, but he has to choose a friend because Joe has like a group of friends, right? And Jill is a part of this friend group. How is he going to break off a friendship with someone that is an intricate part of his friend group, but still be friends with everybody else? Because his crazy, psychotic, jealous girlfriend is completely irrational and unreasonable. Okay. So she even tells them, not only do I not want you to be friends with her, but I don't even want you to talk to her at all, period. So Magna says that, I'm not friends with any of my exes. But Magna, sweetheart, you're scary. Okay. You're very scary. You're probably not friends with any of your exes because you scared them all off. It's not like you're not friends with them by choice. It's not like you're making some huge sacrifice to not be friends with any of your ex-boyfriends. You probably ran them all off with your psychotic behavior. And probably when you broke up with them or when they broke up with you, they felt relieved and they ran for the hills and they didn't even bother to look back. And just the thought of you probably sends chills up their spine. Okay, Magna, it's not like, you're really doing this huge sacrifice by no longer maintaining friendships with your exes. You have no exes to maintain friendships with. You scared everybody off. You damn near scared Joe off, and he's your current boyfriend. So Joe, like I said before, the timing was just really bad for him to break this news to her after, she gave herself to him. So dropping this bomb on crazy Magna after, she broke her no sex rule for him, it was it was just awful. So Joe was like, the reason why I'm telling you, Magna, is because, I'm thinking maybe you and Jill could possibly be friends. And Magna, she just completely erupts like a volcano. She's like, how? How do you expect me to be friends with her? I don't want to be friends with her. I want to tear your eyeballs and her eyeballs out and I want to eat them. That's what she said. And then she is like talking about how I'm not friends with any of my exes. Yeah, I can't believe you have friends at all if you're threatening to eat people's eyeballs because of the fact that they just want to maintain healthy friendships with exes and you want to mutilate them. Magna, please be for real. Magna is unhinged. She is off the chain. But maybe Joe likes this kind of crazy. There's guys out there that like people in general. There's people out there, they like this kind of crazy. It shows that, oh, she must really be into me. She must really be digging me. If she's willing to tear somebody's eyeballs out and eat them, if I so much as look at them or say hello to them. So I don't know. I feel like Joe probably likes this kind of crazy. And is he gonna stop being friends with this Jill girl? Um, probably. Probably. And now that they have consummated their relationship and they ventured into now they're having like, sexual relations with one another. Um, he's probably gonna be like, do I continue having sex with Magna? Or do I continue, just, keeping my homegirl Jill around? I don't know. What do y'all think? Are y'all of the opinion that it's okay or not okay to be friends with your exes? I'm of the opinion that It's a case by case situation. It's a case by case situation. It just depends on the person that you're with. If you have enough trust in that person and you know that that relationship is over with, this is, and I'm only referring to people who don't have kids together. If your current situation does not have children with their ex, that's the only thing. Because if you have kids, that's a whole different ballgame. If you don't have kids with your ex, is it okay to be friends with them? And I think it's a case by case situation. It depends on the ex. It depends on the friend. It depends, I mean, on your current partner. It just depends on the level of trust. It just, it's so much that goes into it. So it's a case by case situation. That's my opinion. Let's move on to Vaya and Sunny. So we see Sunny, he's in the, because they had gone on a little staycation somewhere. Um, they went somewhere for like a little getaway, and now it's time for them to go back to Durban. So I think it's their last day there, but we see him in the morning packing up his stuff, and he's all alone, and he's really sad because the conversation with Vea the night before didn't go so well when he told her that that she has to convert, that in order to be with him she's going to have to convert to Islam, and that whole entire conversation went south because she said that she wasn't willing to do that. She was more like, I'm not, I want to be me. I'm going to let you be you and let's be happy together. He's kind of like, well, no, you can't be you. You have to be what I want you to be in order for us to move forward. So he tells us that things are very, very complicated and he feels very conflicted because he has a ring with him because he intended to propose to Vea. Now, I'm not sure. So obviously he bought the ring way before she showed up in South Africa, right? But I'm kind of confused on why he thought that she would easily convert, that she would be agreeable to converting to Islam because he had already bought the engagement ring. Like he was so sure that she was going to be okay with converting that he decided to propose to her on this trip. So I don't understand how he would have felt confident about that. Because, like I said, this is a conversation that they should have had in the very beginning of their relationship as far as whether or not they're, if she was going to convert or not. But let's move on. So he has the ring to propose to her, but Vea refuses to convert, and he tells us that if he stays with Vea, he'll have to sacrifice his family. This is like watching some type of a telenovela or soap opera or something, how dramatic everything is. And in order to stay with his girlfriend, he has to denounce and disown his whole entire family. So he takes her for a hike to these really beautiful waterfalls. After swimming and playing in the water, he sits her down for a very serious conversation. And he tells her that, he enjoys being with her, he loves her, and that he would really like to continue this relationship with her. Um, he tells her, but to be with her without her converting to Islam means that he's going to have to give up everything that he's ever known. He's going to have to give up his family, his friends. He's going to have to give up everything for her if they're going to continue without her converting. And she's like, okay, so like, what are you saying? Like, what do you want to do now? And he basically tells her that I am willing to do that for you, Vea. I am willing to give up everything for you because I love you so much. But you have to promise to be with me forever and ever and ever. So he gets on one knee. He tells her to close her eyes. He takes out the ring or whatever, and tells her to open her eyes. She sees the ring, and he's like, will you marry me? And then he's like, but before you give me your answer, before you say yes, I want you to understand that by saying yes to me, you are saying yes to me forever. And you're not going to leave me because I'm giving up so much for you and that you will never leave me ever. And Vea's like, oh, of course, Sonny. Of course I will. Yes, forever. Yes. Girl, do you have any idea with what you're getting yourself into? Obviously, accepting a proposal for marriage means that you want to be with that person forever and ever. But I'm like thinking to myself, I mean, the history of this relationship, it's complicated. So after she said yes, they hug, they kiss, and then he tells her again that that she has to promise to be with him forever, that she's never going to leave him. And I'm like, damn, Sonny, you're kind of coming off as desperate and insecure. The way you're making her promise over and over, like before the proposal, after the proposal, you keep talking about how she has to be with you forever and ever. So the next day, they are on their way back to Durban, and Sonny tells her that they're going to have to keep their engagement a secret because he's scared to death of telling his dad and everybody else in his family that he has proposed to Vea, knowing that she is not going to convert to Islam and knowing that his father deems this very much unacceptable. So he tells her, let's kind of keep this a secret for now. And she's like, I don't really feel comfortable with that. She said something about her childhood and her upbringing, something about keeping secrets that she's not too crazy about. She's like, no, I don't really feel comfortable with keeping secrets. I'd rather everything to be out in the open. So we need to tell your dad as soon as possible. And he tells her, please be patient. I'll find the right time to tell my dad. And she says, well, are you going to tell him before I leave? And he's like, well, you're leaving tomorrow. There's no way I can tell him this quickly, this soon. And once again, she's like, I would feel better if your dad knew. I want to start with a clean slate. And the longer that you don't tell him, the more it's going to hurt him when you finally do tell him. And I agree with Vea 1,000%. Something like this, just rip the damn band-aid off, face the music, tell your dad, whatever it is, because you already told her that you're going to give up your whole family, right? So like, what's the issue? What's the problem? You already said to her, hey, I'm going to give up everything for you. So your dad's not going to like it. Your dad is going to be extremely pissed off. So why prolong it? I don't understand. Why prolong it? We know you're scared. It's a very scary thing. I get the fear of telling the dad. I totally understand why Sonny is extremely fearful of telling his dad, because he knows that his dad is going to probably, disown him or make life very difficult for him. Because he tells Vea that, look, if I tell my dad now, you don't understand. You're going back to America. I'm going to be here stuck with him. And so I'm going to have to deal with him on my own. And so when he said that, I was like, well, does he want to tell his dad like after he's in America? Like a couple of years down the line when he gets his visa and he moves to America with Vea, then he wants to. I'm like, I don't understand. Like, if not now, then when? If not now, then when? She's not coming back anytime soon, I don't think, for her to be your support system while you're telling your dad. But we see that in the clip that they showed us next week that he is going to tell his dad, I guess, before Vea leaves to come back to the United States. But Sonny, you already said that you were willing to give up everything for her. So I don't understand why you're hesitating to tell your dad. Just go ahead and get it over with. You know that you're going to have probably a lot. You know what? Most likely his dad is not going to disown him. Most likely his dad is going to be really upset, but they're going to move forward. The relationship is probably going to be kind of rocky. But then they also showed us the clip of the tell-all. And in the tell-all clip that they showed us, it alludes to possibly Vea cheating on Sonny. So they're probably not going to get married anyway. So all of this is null and void. Moving on to Faith and Loren. So Faith left the hotel because last week, Loren had wanted to spend his last couple of nights in Manila with Faith in a really nice hotel, have some romantic moments with her. But their first night in the hotel, it went bad. It went horribly bad because they were sitting at the table across from each other, and Loren was acting really odd. He was crashing beer cans on his head. He was fidgeting with this butter knife, and it rubbed Faith the wrong way completely. Any type of romantic feelings, notions, or whatever were completely gone. So she didn't understand why he was acting. Well, to me, in my opinion, the reason why Loren was acting so funny was because he's kind of like, well, what do I do now? He's kind of like, my plans of living in the Philippines have been squashed after they spoke to the attorney. And the attorney was like, there's just no way that you're going to be able to get any kind of spousal visa or whatever here in the Philippines because the Philippines doesn't recognize gay marriages. So he's kind of probably thinking, well, my whole purpose of being with this woman is to stay in the Philippines. Now I can't stay here legally. So I have no desire to continue any relationship with her. And I think that's the reason why he was acting really stressed out and he was real fidgety, because he's like, my plans have been completely warped. I can't stay here. I'm not going to want to take her to America with me because I have no feelings for her, because now we know that Loren lied to get on the show. We have no idea if he was ever genuine about his feelings towards Faith. I don't know if he was using Faith to get on the show or if him and Faith were in cahoots to get on the show together. Who the hell knows? Because he basically admitted on his social media that he lied. He lied to the producers, whatever backstory he gave them about himself. He embellished a lot to make his life seem more interesting than it was. When he got on the show, he continued to lie. We don't know if he's actually poor. We don't know if he actually ever had gonorrhea. We don't know if he actually cheated on Faith. We don't know if Faith is in on this or not. So the whole thing is a big fat lie. So that's the reason why I feel like he was fidgety, because he's like, well, if I can't continue to be with her and I have no intentions of bringing her to the United States, then I'm going to have to move on to somebody else to try to stay within the 90-day universe. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Loren. So Faith left the hotel because she didn't like how he was acting. So she gave him back his ring and she left and she went to her own hotel. And she's talking to us in her confessional, and she's talking about how she's realizing that Loren just is he's not the one for her because of all the things that he's done. He flipped the script on her about them living in the United States together. He says he no longer wanted to do that. He wants to stay in the Philippines. That was a shock to her. He got gonorrhea, so he was seeing other people. So she finds out that he's a cheater and that he cheats in the most unsafe way. She finds out that he was flirting with a drag queen at the drag queen club that they went to. So all these things are adding up now. And she's like, you know what? This guy just isn't for me. And I thought that I found true love, but I've been played. I've been made a fool of. And so she's really much in her feelings. She tells us, once again, how hard it is for trans women to find real love, to find people who are genuinely interested in them and who can really, really love them for who they are. So before going to the airport the next day, Loren decides to stop by Faith's hotel, I guess to have, one last conversation with her and to basically tell her goodbye. And she agrees to come down to see him. So she comes down. They're standing next to each other. It's very awkward. He apologizes to her for everything that he did. She tells him, too little, too late. It's over. And it was just really strange to watch these people who, like a couple of days before, were engaged. Okay, they're engaged. Like I said, the engagement to me, the proposal that Loren did, also was very fake and phony. Like there was no real love behind it. There wasn't any real emotion behind it. It was just very bland, very like just something that he just slopped together just to get to the next level, on his evil scheme to stay on the 90-day franchises. That's what it all seemed like to me. So the breakup is also just no feelings, no nothing, because it wasn't a real relationship to begin with. What else can I say about them? He didn't act like a man losing his woman. He didn't act like a man losing his fiance. He was just like, well, I'm sorry for whatever I did, all the stuff that I did that pissed you off. Yeah. And she's like, well, okay, cool, whatever. And he's like, well, I'm leaving. And she's like, yeah, I guess you are. It was just like that cold and that awkward. So Faith tells us that she's not mad. She's just very regretful. In her confessional, the poor girl is just bawling her eyes out. She's really upset about being played. She's really upset about letting her guard down for this guy who was just a jokester. He was just a clown from the beginning. And like she couldn't see, I don't know how she couldn't figure him out early on. She should have broken up with him as soon as he told her that he had gonorrhea. I think that's when she should have broken up with him, because she was of the mindset that they were in a exclusive relationship. And he tells her, I've been cheating on you. And she's like, what are you talking about? You've been cheating on me. And then he's like, well, don't you, I told you this is what I do. I sleep around with people. You knew that. You knew that already. And she's like, what? That whole encounter right there, that whole exchange right there should have been enough for her to be like, okay, you're foolish. You're foolish. I would never co-sign to you, sleeping around on me. And she should have left him right then and there, but she didn't. So someone shows you how they are, in the words of Maya Angelou, believe them the first time. Okay, so I'm just glad that she didn't cry in front of him when they were, when he was telling her his goodbye. I'm glad that she didn't cry in front of him. She kept it together. She was very cold and distant towards him. That's exactly what he deserved. Loren tells us that he would have been happy to be with Faith anywhere, even if it wasn't in the Philippines. And I'm like, lies, Loren, stop lying. Stop lying to us. The jig is up. Okay, we figured you out. You revealed yourself to us that you're only on here for money and clout. Just shut up and go away. Josko, Vanya's new boyfriend, showed a lot more emotion over leaving Vanya when she had to come back to America. He showed way much more emotion over Vanya after knowing her for a couple of days than Loren did over Faith, over breaking up with the fiance, a whole fiance. But then again, we know Josko is also, he's got some shenanigans going on too that we'll find out next week. Matilda and Niles. So it's the day of the knocking ceremony and the wedding. Niles is getting ready. He's in this little room. I guess he's at Mr. Ark's house, and he's in this little room getting ready for the wedding and the knocking ceremony. And he's telling us that he's considering disowning his parents or not having anything to do with his parents because they're not in support of his relationship with Matilda. So Mr. Ark comes in and gives him the money for the bridal price, and then he gives him some advice. He gives him a piece of advice, and he tells Niles, he's like, okay, I don't know what the hell y'all got going on in America, but over here in Africa, when you're with a woman, it's only front yard action, no backyard action. He actually tells Niles this. He tells him we only do the vaginal. We don't do the anal play. None of that. Okay. So respect Matilda. And don't go poking around in the backyard. You keep everything in the. I was like, Lord have mercy. Wow. Lord have mercy. Moving on. So they go into the building. I don't know if this was the church or what building this was, but all the guests are there, and they walk in. Niles, Mr. Ark, Mrs. Ark, everybody's there. They sit down, and it must be hot in there because Niles was sweating profusely, and he had like a little napkin that he was dabbing his forehead with, and I'm like, Niles, no, sir, the way you're sweating, you need like a whole entire beach towel because you are sweating profusely. And everybody else was like cool, calm, and collected. But Mr. Ark was sweating too. Okay, Mr. Ark, he was perspiring as well. So now sits down next to Mr. Okay, so the room, okay, it's really hot. Then Matilda enters. The bride makes her appearance. She comes in. She told us that she didn't get the wedding dress that she wanted. She basically had to beg the dressmaker to put something together. This isn't what she would have chosen, but it'll do for now. I thought the dress was okay. It had a lot of mesh, and I'm not a big fan of mesh, especially on something so formal like a wedding gown, but whatever. She looked nice. She looked pretty. So she comes in. The ceremony takes place, the knocking ceremony, the actual wedding ceremony, and they are now officially Mr. and Mrs. Niles Valentine. They are married. And Niles says that he has everything that he could ever want in life. He has his beautiful wife, he has his laptop, and he has his video games. He didn't mention a job, but hopefully that's coming soon as well. So congratulations to Niles and Matilda. So far, they are the only couple that has officially got married this season, correct? I think so. Moving on to Vanja and Josko. So it is Vanya's last day in Croatia. They're on their way to the airport. They don't know what they're going to do with this relationship because there's so many hurdles. It's going to be long distance in the beginning, and then as far as like who's going to move where, they have no idea. Vanya does not want to move to Croatia. Josko cannot leave Croatia because of his foster son, who he plans to adopt. So nobody knows what the hell is going to happen in the future. So there's a lot of tears at the airport when they're saying their goodbye. They're crying. It's very emotional. Later on, Vanya is basically telling us what's been happening since she's been back in Florida. So she says that Josko couldn't wait to see her again. So he decided to come and visit her for 10 days in Orlando. So she talks about all the things that they did, the places that they went, because he was seriously considering moving to Orlando. So everything is going great. And then at the end of her narrative, she talks about how, if everything was going so wonderful between them, she doesn't understand how things ended so badly or something to that effect. So we don't know exactly what happened, but the little clip that they showed us for next week's episode, it showed her telling her cousin that Josko told her or texted her that he didn't want to be with her anymore. So this is very, very interesting because it seemed like, Josko dived headfirst into this relationship with Vanya, and they seemed to be like, they were like drawn to each other like magnets. And I mean, he even came to America to come visit her for a couple of weeks. And so it's like, what in the world could have possibly happened? But maybe it's one of those situations where it's like, it's so hot and heavy in the beginning and then it fizzles out. By the way, she did end up having sex with Josko. She broke her 6-year rule. her 6 year no sex rule for Josko when he came to the United States. It's weird how these relationships are falling apart after people have had sex with each other because Magda and Joe, they're having problems the day after they had sex. Josko and Vanya having issues after they consummated their relationship. Like, what is going on? But we'll find out next week, y'all. Thank you so much for joining me. I missed everybody. I really do appreciate y'all clicking on my channel to listen to me jaw jack. I do really do appreciate it. On your way out, please don't forget to rate the video if you like this content, subscribe to my channel, and I'll definitely talk to you later.